Okay. I would say that, and I'm going to take a different perspective, a more recent perspective. When I started in government management, which wasn't that long ago, in the last 5 years, I feel like even in the last 5 years that social capital has been in decline. And for example, in the city that I was at, which was a small city, like Trey said, I think people valued relationships over everything. People weren't in a hurry. Having a conversation with someone, the person in front of you was more important than the topic at hand. You went to the grocery store, like Trey said, and you knew you were going to be out for an hour, but that was important. And I think that those relationships really lent themselves to that, to making local government function a little bit easier. You had something, you had a change in your organization, or you were implementing a new policy in town. Those things were, even though they were still difficult, people understood and they respected what was going on because they knew it was for the greater good of that community. So I think that graciousness that we were given sort of stopped when COVID started. COVID started and it put this pause on the fostering of relationships. The trust that had been built, at least when I was there, over several years. It was almost like it just unraveled over a couple of months because those networks weren't meeting anymore. We weren't having meetings. Our component units, like our rec center and our senior center, they were closed. This community that valued those relationships and that time spent together weren't doing those things anymore. So I think that, coupled with this national events going on over the last 3 to 5 years, I know I'm taking a more recent perspective, like just within my circle and in my family, you hear debt ceiling and you hear political parties, Republican or Democrat, who are you? And raising taxes and police brutality, all these things. When you say government, I work for local government. There's already this. Well, I don't know what you do. I know that government has a negative connotation to the word in general, so I don't trust you. So, unfortunately, that's to me where I've seen just a decline. Um, I think that there's hope, though. I've seen that hope over the last year, because that concerted effort to try and rebuild those relationships that we've put a pause on for the last three years. Um, there are people who really welcome that. There are people also who don't. They're a little bit tougher. Like I said, even in my circle, my friends in their 30s prefer to be self-isolated. They want to be home. They don't want to engage. And that's a lot of people that I know. So it's this whole new generation and what they expect out of a relationship, because in the city that I was at before, the demographic was probably 50 to 60s. And people wanted to come to a meeting. They didn't want to Zoom. They wanted to have a conversation with you on the phone. Um, but here, the demographic, we have more 30s and 40s, and they don't want to come to your meetings. They don't want to talk to you, or they don't want to talk to you in person. A text. We have people who are applying for jobs here, and they request text updates instead of a phone call. So I think things have changed, and so we have to change with them, and that's really, really difficult. So.
Thank you. What do you think would be helpful to increase public trust?
I think it's really trying to find a way to engage people outside of this machine right here that I'm staring at, and our phones. Which Danielle is completely right. Let's go back to the 70s. We had 3 channels, and even when we were kids, we had cable TV, and you were still limited, and you had kind of that common experience of whatever TV show was on at the time. To today, I mean, the all the choices, nobody's watching the same things, nobody's listening to the same things. So you lose a lot of that shared fabric. It's really hard to have that shared fabric of community life, where you're going to the same events. But I will tell you that I think that there's still opportunity out there, whether it's basketball games, whether it's sporting events, whether it's community festivals,
Mhm.
PTO meetings, drop off and pick up of your kids. But I really think when we have those opportunities, when we do see people, we have to be engaging. We have to have those conversations with them. We have to find ways to engage in person. Because I think that's where we lost it with COVID. I was a huge proponent of mask at the time, but we're also as a species, and I'll say a species,
Yeah.
um, we look at people's faces. And when you walk down the supermarket aisle and you see somebody, if they smile back, they're less threatening. When you can't see their face because of a mask, you can't read their intent. And all of a sudden I think we put malintent into people that we can't see them smiling back. We can't see what they're doing. And I think it's harder to overcome. I mean, masks are gone now, but it's just whenever we can sit down, we can find, one of the things I love about Kansas is I can usually sit down with somebody and within 2 minutes of the conversation, we have a common friend, we have a common acquaintance, somebody that, hey, so and so, so, and that helps to melt that ice. So I think when you can sit down, when you can melt that ice, when you can bond over shared experiences, I think that helps to create relationships.
Good. Daniela?
Trey hit it on the head. He's right. The first thing that comes to mind is peer-to-peer engagement. Um, we we recently had a bond on the ballot for the school district, and the peer-to-peer engagement for that had been set aside because the group leading this effort didn't think that it was important. They did Zooms, they did, all sorts of things, but actually going, either house to house or really engaging with the public and listening to their worries, their concerns, what it really meant. Um, I think that would have done them really, really well. So I think we take for granted that people still want to see you and talk to you in person, and not just read a pamphlet or even a video. I know that a younger generation like those videos, and I know that that's how they interact. But there's a lot of people that still want you to, show up and talk about those things. So making that effort and being inclusive of what everyone needs and wants, and making sure you're meeting those needs. I think that also continuing to keep your organization in check of what value you bring to the organization. I think uh, cities are really well known for doing things the way they've always done them. And sometimes you don't know why you're doing it. You're just doing it. And I think in this organization, we've taken a step back to really look at what is it that we're doing? Are we creating value? And how is this value translating to our residents? So that is really, really difficult. Coming in and trying to change some things, even small things, are tough. They take time. They take a lot of conversations, and they take internal trust. So I would say that's something very important that we need to do. Also, something I'm specifically working on right now is hiring leaders that continue that engagement and building that trust, because I think it's harder and harder to find good leaders. We've kind of taken the approach of internal succession planning, because we find people who come in who've been in the corporate world or who've been in other types of leadership roles, perhaps don't know how things are done in local government, and they don't stay here very long. I mean, I don't know what Trey has seen, but it's just been really hard to find leaders to take over in cities and counties, and I think it's state level too. So we've taken the approach to develop our leaders, develop internal talent. Also, lastly, accountability. I know that word it's kind of like taboo around here. You don't say that. It's this organization has very um, intelligent, loyal people who've been here for a long time. And again, I think cities get caught up in we do it like this. I've been here a lot of years, and don't change it. Don't, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So holding staff accountable, holding the people who lead these cities accountable, to ensure that we're making the right decisions, and decisions that include the residents, that transparency. I think when you start doing those things, and it's this balance, it's this dance, I call it a dance. It takes time. Again, I keep saying time, it takes effort, but once you start doing that, people will see you for what you're doing, and they will respect it. So I wish I could hire like 10 more people right now to do some of that stuff, but unfortunately, cities are limited in the resources that they have. And so it's an ongoing process. I know I'll be doing this until the day I retire, but I love it. And I'm sure Trey loves it too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, that's a wrap up for my main questions. I have one final question. Do you have any final thoughts or comments you would like to add?
Emily, I'm excited that you're doing this interview. I'm excited for you and your cohort. Um, you know, this is, I love coming to work every day. There's bad days, and I've had awful days at work. But day in and day out, this is a great profession. I think we get to do more at this level. We get to impact people's lives. You're building something bigger than you. And I think I just encourage more young people to get involved in this. This is a chance that, you know, you can be a leader in a community at a really young age. You can grow over the years. It's not going to be without pain. But at the end of the day, it's very rewarding, just to look back and see the difference and things that have worked right.
Thank you. Daniela?
I will echo and ditto what Trey said. I think we need more city managers. We need more city administrators. We need more people, young people who are willing to take these roles because, like Trey said, they're hard work. It definitely isn't for the weak, but there's so much reward, that intrinsic value that you get from using your mind to problem solve, because sometimes it's not all technical. You become there's ingenuity, and there's creativity in it, even though it may not seem like it. It may seem like we sit behind a desk all day and crank out numbers and tell people what to do, and but that's not the case. We're real people using our experiences, and we use what our strengths, to lead an organization. And just like you, Emily, I know I've known you for a short amount of time, but I think I'm excited for you to one day lead a city. So, and thank you for inviting us to do this.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you again for your participation. I really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.